Politicians know the exceptional importance of the company that a candidate keeps. But what about the company that keeps away from the candidate? Our fourth story on the countdown, Senator John McCain finding himself bereft of buddies this summer. Republican Senator Gordon Smith of Oregon is the latest runaway. He has quit as state co-chair for McCain's campaign. Smith insists he is not trying to distance himself from the presumptive nominee. He says he's merely focusing his time and effort on his own re-election campaign. But considering that the position of co-chair is mainly honorary, requiring little more from Senator Smith than the use of his name, and considering Senator Smith has been running re-election ads linking himself to both Senator John Kerry and Senator Barack Obama, even though in 2004 he called Kerry French and socialist, the claim that Smith now isn't trying to separate himself from McCain and from the R after his own title rings a little hollow. Senator Smith just the latest in a string of GOP senators to back away from Senator McCain and the Grand Old Party. Senator Pat Roberts of Kansas just announced he will not be attending the RNC convention in St. Paul next month. Also skipping the festivities, Senators Ted Stevens, well, understandable considering he'll be preparing for his corruption trial, Elizabeth Dole, the aforementioned Gordon Smith, Susan Collins, Chuck Hagel, Wayne Allard, Larry Craig. Also understandable considering the awkward proposition of Craig flying in for the convention to the Minneapolis airport, home of a men's room that holds a very special place in Senator Craig's biography. Two more senators, John Sununu of New Hampshire and Roger Wicker of Mississippi, are reportedly still deciding whether to go to the convention. I'm joined now by Bob Herbert, op-ed columnist with the New York Times. Thanks for your time tonight, Bob.
Who's going to be there?
I know.
He's going to be a lonely guy.
Is this weird? 10 out of 49 Republican senators, almost a fifth, are not going.
The short answer is this is weird.
Yeah.
Actually, the Republicans are demoralized, and the Republicans in Congress are demoralized, and they have reason to be demoralized. I mean, things are really turning against them. They don't have the issues. They're running away from Bush, who was incredibly unpopular. McCain has turned out not to be a great candidate. But I think that there's more at work. This is generally considered to be, it's going to be a bad year for Republican down-ticket races. But I think there's a longer-term problem for the Republicans because that conservative to right Republican philosophy has pretty much played out. I mean, it's bankrupt now. I mean, you've had this war, which nobody thinks was a good idea, but you've got a war where the country is not paying for it. You've got this idea of you don't have to raise taxes. You can constantly lower taxes all the time. There's the incompetence that everybody saw after Katrina. So the Republicans are worried about a long-term problem. And then one other point. In addition to having the issues against them and having an unpopular president, you've got demographics working against the Republicans now. I mean, you've got a younger electorate coming along, and ethnic minorities are going to be a larger portion of the population over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So the Republicans are looking at some real problems.
One of the things that we talked a lot about heading into the general election campaign is how McCain would strategize against the Democrats casting him as being too close to Bush. One of the things I'm wondering now with all these defections, not only from the convention, but from McCain personally, is are Republicans making a distinction between McCain and Bush? Do these defections represent an assessment, essentially, by Republican senators that that running away from McCain is the same thing as running away from Bush and has the same political imperative?
Yeah, I think that's what's going on. The ones who are running away are definitely assuming that the voters are going to see McCain linked up there with Bush. But an interesting thing that I think is going to happen in this campaign is there's going to be, I expect, an awful lot of ticket splitting. I think this is going to be a bad year for Republicans in Congress. Democrats trying to get a veto-proof majority in the Senate, unlikely, but they're trying. But I think there's going to be a lot of voters who are going to vote for Republicans in Congress, in the House and the Senate, and not going to vote for Obama or will vote for McCain. And it's almost like the reverse of a candidate who's really popular and has long coattails. This might be a case of whether legislatively the people in Congress have enough coattails to pull Obama across the finish line.
On that specific issue of Gordon Smith in Oregon.
He wants to be the Joe Lieberman of the GOP.
Well, that's the question. I mean, he insists that he is not at all trying to distance himself from the Republican Party, not trying to distance himself from McCain. It is hard to come up with any other explanation, particularly to have him running ads linking himself to Kerry after the nasty names that he called Kerry in 2004. What's a Gordon Smith to do in a year like this? Should he just come out and say, yeah, I am distancing myself from the Republican Party. I'm not in favor of them. I'm not in favor of John McCain's election. How far can he go?
Well, sort of the built-in hypocrisy of politicians won't permit him to actually do that, you know. But that's essentially what he's doing. He's doing that in effect. He's saying, you know, look at me and associate me with the Democrats who are running in this race and with the Democratic issues that you favor in this race out in Oregon. So, and then he's trying to just hold on. We'll see if it works.
Bob Herbert, op-ed columnist for the New York Times. It's great to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Rachel, thanks a lot.